Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Gloriann. Welcome. First, before starting the episode, I want to say that I am not feeling good. I'm a little bit blue. So I just want you guys to know that if I'm not myself, you know why. This couple of weeks have been just crazy. I've been working a lot. I haven't taken a break for myself and sit down and think. So I just want you to know that I apologize. In today's episode, I'll be talking about relationship with our siblings. When you're a kid and have a sibling or have siblings, it's a roller coaster ride, because you either can be fine playing dolls or playing video games, and then a second passes and you're in each other's throat. It has happened to everybody. When we can say that we have a rivalry with our siblings, especially if you are closer to age. If you have a sibling that is the same sex as you guys compete with each other because you have the same interests, like playing basketball, volleyball, or any kind of sport. It really takes out your competition. You guys are really competitive, because especially if your parents put you in the same team, it's okay, he's a better player than I am, or they are playing. It's just a competition between you two. Some people, if they are the middle child, they tend to not have the same attention as the oldest and the youngest, which in my family is not really like that. This is when you're a kid, but once you start to get older, it's a different story. Your siblings can either be a pain in the ass and you guys don't get along at all, have a good relationship and you guys are friends, and turn into a best friend situation. It's normal to have conflict with your siblings. It's part of your growth. Conflict between your siblings can include, obviously, hitting them because they didn't want to play with you, or if you lost a game. It's a conflict where you hurt them or they hurt you, but obviously not in a harmful way. Fighting with your siblings will show you how to have compassion and how to forgive. You may start to think I fight it a lot with my brother or my sister or with my siblings. It's a normal thing to fight with them. Fighting with them or having to live with them a certain amount of time, you learn how to communicate, how to apologize when you did something wrong, social skills, and develop a sense of closeness with others. Of course, having a sibling doesn't mean that you guys are gonna get along always. You will find your disagreements, because even though you lived in the same household, doesn't mean really that you have the same way of thinking. A sibling rivalry can go to the extremes and can be damaging to the relationship or to the family. Of course, you don't want that. You don't want to have a rivalry with your siblings, because they're family, they're blood. Their family, their blood. You just need to be there to support them. I read that 70% of parents that demonstrate a preference for one child or another can cause the child to lash out and have like negative comments about themselves and be really bullied or bully their siblings. That's why they're always fighting and not getting along. I'll be honest. Look, the age difference can bring a lot of competition with your siblings. In my family, I'm the only girl and the oldest. I'm always the one that gets yelled at if something happens because I'm supposed to be the good influence. And my brother, the middle one, he is like the loner of the family, but at the same time, he is selfish and not really a team player. Then my youngest brother, he is really creative, but it's totally different than my brother and I. Like he's just different. It's not your traditional common birth position like type because they say that the firstborn tends to be intelligent, overachiever, and honestly I don't feel like that. My middle brother, I can say he's the smart one of the family, and the youngest, he's not really a rebel. He's more like the peacemaker in the family. Because when my middle brother and I start to fight, the youngest is the one that, hey, no, don't fight, blah, blah. Like, he tries to put everything in perspective. So, we're not really that traditional birth comment, type. We all have our different things. Anyway, to the point. Siblings can play a unique role in our lives. You have to share experiences, you have similar interests and beliefs, and to have a good relationship with them means that you value them. Show them that they're important to you and that you want to keep them in their life. You have to keep in touch. Once you move out of the house, you need to keep in touch. You can have bonding time with them. Either they can go to your house or, you guys go to eat or even play video games like when you were little kids. Watch movies, do different types of things. Like things that you would do normally with your friends. Except even though you came from the same household, you are different than them. Of course, we're different than our siblings just because the way our parents treated us. So you really need to avoid being critical and be nice to them and support them, because again, you don't want them to feel that you're doing what your parents did to them. Don't hold grudges. If you guys fight it for, I don't know, the TV control and at one point, don't make that something that will eat you in the inside, because having a grudge, it can ruin your relationship. And obviously you can't really bring the past as well. Things that happen in the past stay in the past. You can't really bring them because you don't know. For you may have had the most wonderful childhood, but for your siblings it wasn't. It was just trauma. Because again, even though we live in the same household doesn't mean that they have had or they went through the same experience as you. And of course, be acceptable. Accept your siblings the way they are. Because sometimes parents can be in their own bubble, and us as kids, as children, can feel that our parents really don't care and we don't have their support. That's why you have a sibling. Support them, talk to them. You will never know. Of course, if your sibling is snitching on you and being the mole rat of the family, of course you just don't say anything to them. Or talk to them and say, hey, like, I say this in confidence, and say it to mom and dad, just like the way that you would do with me. This is something that is common sense. But anyways, I'll be talking politics, religion, and how to do things, because this can always cause tension between you two and in the family, and it's just better not to talk about them. I wanted to start saying that my relationship with my brother, we are 11 years apart. So when he was born, obviously when he was born, it was a new baby. They gave all the attention to him, and I really didn't care. But meanwhile, we started getting older. Him and we always fighted a lot. Just a lot. And every time we fighted, my parents were like, Gloriann, you're the oldest. Like, why are you fighting with him? And also, we had a really bad... And we have an 11-year difference. So my parents were like, Gloriann, you're supposed to be the adult. Why are you fighting with your brother? Gloriann, you can't do this. Gloriann, you can't do that. And a lot of the times, dude, my brother was just little. And he literally sometimes started crying for no reason. And then my mom came in, or my dad, and he was just like, oh, Gloriann hit me, or Gloriann did this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. So my brother was like a little devil as well. Anyway, the point is, like, when we were younger, we fighted a lot. Like, discussion verbally, or just hitting ourselves. Of course, since I was the oldest and my brother wasn't that tall, I always win the fights. Now that he's older and he's taller than me, I can't really hit him or hurt him because he will hurt me. And yeah, no thank you. What I'm trying to say is, when my brother and I, when we were older, we fighted a lot and we didn't honestly get along at all. And this was the middle brother. I didn't get along with my middle brother at all. With my youngest brother, I did get along with him a lot. I still do. But now I'm seeing, I guess because of my middle brother, he's older and he's starting to see things. We have a lot of things in common. So when we're in the house and I'm cooking or I'm doing something, like, he goes, sits down with me and starts talking. So it's a totally different change of what we used to do. That it was literally fight like cats and dogs. Like, my mom even didn't even knew what to do, because again, it was a fight every time. If, like, let's just say, like, obviously, like, when my brother was younger, let's say he was 5, I was a teenager. So when he came into my room, or oh, Gloriann, do you want to play with me? I'm like hitting him or saying like no, yelling at him, no, get out of my room, because obviously, that's how we are. But then when my little brother came in, Gloriann, do you want to play? Or like just to give me a hug, I would like give attention to him. And then my other brother got jealous and started like fighting with him, and I defended my little brother. It was a whole thing. But now I can say that, meanwhile, we get older, we get along. The middle child and I, we get along. Of course, sometimes we do have our discussions, but we sit down and we talk about it. Or my brother just gets mad at me and doesn't talk to me for like a week. I'm like, okay. Well, not like a week, but 2 days. And so anyways, having siblings, like having brothers, at least because again, I'm the only girl, having brothers, it was a lot of competition between them as well, because they were 2 years apart. I mean, they are 2 years apart. So the competition that they have with each other, it's hilarious, because both of them play sports and one of them is more athletic than the other. So of course there's always fighting between who's the best in like sports, who's the best playing video games. And my brother, my middle brother, he's really smart, and you can give him a game, and he will quickly understand it and just in 5 hours can finish the game. Like he's really smart. My youngest brother, he's more in the creative side. So, when he was little, he liked to do Legos. He liked to do a lot of things. that my middle brother really didn't. He did, but didn't appreciate it more. Didn't appreciate it. So I can say that I had a lot of conflict with my brother, the middle brother. I still do, don't get me wrong, I still have conflicts with him. Especially when he thinks that now that he's older, he can push me around, and it's like, no. I'm the one that will push you around because I'm the oldest. So stay in your lane, buddy. No, but I love them both, and I can say that I still need to work on my relationship with my brothers, especially the middle one. But meanwhile, time passes. You either get along better with your sibling, or sometimes it happens. You drive apart. And it's normal. You always need to be there for them and be aware that when they need you, you have to be there and support them, Just the same way they will support you and be there for you. Because at the end of the night, at the end of the day, even though we don't want to, our parents are gonna leave, and that's gonna be the only family that you're gonna have when you're older. Of course, you'll have your wife and your kids, but it's not the same as having a sibling bond. Up next, I'll be talking about being the black sheep of the family and versus being the favorite.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Alrighty, welcome back. So we all know, if you have siblings, we know that our parents have a favorite kid. Even though they deny it, even though they say it's not true, we all know that parents have a favorite child. And it's funny because it's either always the oldest one or the youngest. In my family is my middle brother. He's the favorite one. And it's hilarious how he can get away with everything. And sometimes I say that I'm the black sheep of the family because my brother and I, even though he's younger than me, much younger than me, I can do the exact same thing. An example is, okay, so we are playing video games, right? And like we're playing something and we left. An example is if I leave the food and like if I didn't do my dishes, my parents will yell at me like, oh, you didn't clean the dishes, like blah blah, this is not a hotel, you guys need to, like, you need to clean your dishes, I'm not gonna do it for you. I'm like, okay, no worries, okay, I can do it. And then my brother does the exact same thing. He doesn't get yelled at, they don't say anything to him. My parents clean his plate and that's it. And there's like a lot of other stories that he does that. There's other things as well that I get yelled at and my brother does the exact same thing and my parents don't say anything to him. It's funny because even though they deny that my middle brother is the favorite, my youngest brother and I were like, yeah, no, he's the favorite. Because even my youngest brother notices a lot. And obviously as well, sometimes you do get confused of the fact like who's the favorite in your family, because even though I'm the oldest, I'm the only girl, I can say that sometimes my parents treat me different than my brothers, and I don't know if it's because of the age, or because of, you know, our personalities or our gender, or who, you know, who was born first and who was born second. I can say that in my experience, my parents, when I'm telling you I can do the exact same thing as my brother doesn't get in trouble and I do, or like I get, you know, they call my attention, and my brother, like nothing happened. And honestly as well, I don't know, it's more because of the fact like since I'm the oldest, I need to give a good example to my brothers, and so it's a lot of pressure sometimes being the oldest. So we all know that the black sheep of the family, like the meaning of being the black sheep of the family is like the member of the family who doesn't, like somebody that makes really bad decisions or has a really bad reputation. And for me, the black sheep of the family, you don't really have to do anything like illegal or bad. I think the family sometimes just like puts you like the black sheep even though you don't really are, and like it's somebody that doesn't fit into the family. For example, okay, so in my family, all of them, in my family there's a lot of engineers and CPAs, accountants, you know, they either studied business or engineering. And when I decided what I wanted to study, I first decided architecture. And I remember that when I decided, you know, like what major I was gonna be in, I remember like my grandfather like making engineer versus architect jokes, like, oh, you want to be an engineer, like you want to study architecture when you can be an engineer, or like, you know, some jokes, like really stupid jokes, like a friendly competition. So that's another thing of like being the black sheep of the family, when you just don't make decisions that go in the family, I can say. Or another example is obviously if your family is athletic, you know, everybody's athletic, but you decide to not do any exercise, and or like not any exercise, but you decide not to do any sports or anything really. You just like to stay home and read books or play video games. That's another thing on why you're the black sheep, or feel like the black sheep, because really you don't fit in. And sometimes parents, I know that sometimes parents don't really see when they're outcasting their kids, and even siblings sometimes do it as well. In my house, at least, my brother, what I'm trying to say is that obviously the black sheep doesn't really need to do something illegal, like, you know, stealing a car or doing drugs. It's a black sheep is either they did, you know, the family, they excluded him or her because they did something illegal, or it's just a member that doesn't fit in or feels like they don't fit in. That's where I'm going with this. Anyways, the point is, in the family, there's always going to be the black sheep and the favorite. Obviously, with the black sheep, even though they try really hard to do something, they always do something wrong, or like the family criticize them as much as possible, and it sucks, really. And obviously, like, if you're the favorite child, your parents or like the family member, because even grandparents obviously treat you like you're the best thing ever. Anyway, the point is that the favorite child, obviously, they get along. As I said, the favorite child, they always do everything right. They never do anything wrong, like in their parents' eyes, even though they do. But being the favorite sometimes can really, being the favorite sometimes can be problematic. Can really be something problematic, because of the fact that when you're the favorite, they give you everything, and your parents are always like, yeah, you're doing a great job, you're doing everything good, oh no, you did that excellent. Once you go into adulthood, it brings you problems, because then you don't know really what to do if you're failing in something. Like, it affects you in a way that you're like, oh wait, no, this is not, like, why am I failing? Like at the office, you wanna do the best, and then somebody else comes in and nope, like easy peasy slice, easy peasy. They really don't have to work that much, and you're here like, wait. So what I'm trying to say is, when you're the favorite child, obviously, when you're the favorite child, it can bring you problems in the workplace or in life, because you think you have this stuck in your head unconsciously that you're the best, you're the one that can do everything, so you don't really work that hard. It's not work hard, it's more about you don't really see how your parents treated you differently than your siblings. And this happens as well when you're an only child. When you're an only child, obviously, when you're an only child, you don't have to share anything. You can become a selfish person, because with siblings, when you have siblings, you start to have a sense of sharing, sense of being, having empathy. It's having a sibling means really being there for that person. So you start to get this sense of what it is to be with another person. When you're an only child, you don't really get that sense. It's really hard. And if you are with your cousins, like if you were raised with your cousins because you were an only child, then you do get those types of character. Like, you start to know what it is empathy, what's sharing, and you don't become that selfish person. So in a summary, a short summary, being the favorite can really affect you in your adulthood, and being the black sheep of the family doesn't mean that you're doing something illegal. It's just it's like the shrimp. You're like the shrimp. Everybody wants to go one way and you want to go to another. You want to go the other way. In my house, the middle brother is the favorite one, as I said. And again, he is really achieved. He was his valedictorian in his class. He was a really good student. But now he's facing like a lot of other problems, because he thinks that he deserves everything, and like he's the little prince of the house. But that's in my family. I know that not everybody is the same. I know that every family is different, and everybody does different things. Being the black sheep of the family doesn't really mean that you're gonna do something illegal, or that, you know, your family's gonna treat you like that forever. They obviously still love you, but they show things in a different way. As all parents and as everybody, sometimes you just have to think to yourself, okay, what is better for me as a human being and for my mental health as well. Up next, I'll be talking about being an only child for 11 years and then having brothers and my experiences with my brothers and our fights. And I wanted to say as well that at least in this episode, I'm not really feeling good. I've been working nonstop this last 3 weeks, so I'm just exhausted, and I think I'm getting a little bit sick. But I think it's more about physical, not really like sick, like coughing and feeling bad. It's just me being tired. So I apologize if today's episode is not that good.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Alrighty, welcome back. So as you know, we've been talking about relationship with our siblings, how to get along, how being the black sheep and the favorite can affect us. And right now I'm gonna be talking about my experiences with my brothers. I was an only child for 11 years. My parents, I always wanted a sibling. I always wanted like either a little sister or a little brother, you know, to get along and to play with, because you know, being an only child can be really boring sometimes. You don't have anybody to play with. And of course, I have cousins, but they all, like, from my mom's side and my dad's side, everybody had brothers. The only one that didn't have brothers or sisters was me. And so I remember that every time that we went to like family events or something, everybody asked like my parents like, oh, so when are you gonna give Gloriann a little brother or a little sister? Like, she's always all alone and she must be really boring, like she must be bored to death in the house. Anyway, the point is that when I was 11 years old, my mom got pregnant. My parents were really happy the fact that they were gonna have a kid. You know, I was really excited to have a little brother, a little sister, and I was like, okay. And everybody asked me, oh, like, do you want a brother? Do you want a sister? And I was like, no, I want a sister. Like, I want to paint her nails. You know, I want to have somebody to talk to. And I didn't get a sister. I got a brother. And so when my brother was born, I got a brother. But before my brother was born, I got along with my older cousin. I can say like he's my older brother, even though we're cousins. He's really overprotective. He's always there for me. He has never, I can call him up at 3 a.m. in the morning. He'll pick up. You know, if something happens, he's always there. He's never been not there. And he gives me all the support and all the love that I need. And he has his brothers and his sisters, but he treats me more than his you know, like his sister, than his own siblings. And it's hilarious because he's always been there for me, and I know that he always will be. My brother, when he was born, it was a whole thing because, you know, it was the new baby, it was the new thing, everybody was giving attention to him, and I really didn't mind it because, okay, it's the new baby. I was playing with my brother as well. So meanwhile, he was getting older. I can say that my brother's the favorite in my family because he can do the exact same thing as me, the exact same, and they yelled at me but not to him. Like, let me just get my thoughts all together. When he was younger, obviously, like, he's a little kid, if he made a mess, it was like my mom will clean it, or my mom will tell me, hey, clean your brother's mess. It was never like I can say like my mom really didn't show my brother how to clean his mess. She was always doing it for him. And of course, when he turned like into a more older age, like in his teens, my mom started like, hey, you need to clean this, hey, you need to clean that. But when he was younger, he wasn't really, he did whatever he wanted in the house, whatever he wanted. Like, I remember one time he wanted to play video games, but my mom took his his game console. He went into the closet and started playing with it. My mom, when he saw him, she did not get mad. She was furious. She was like, how dare you? Like, what is this? Your sister has never done this before. Like, he was really a troublemaker sometimes. Anyway, my brother and I, we fighted a lot when he was younger. And I think it was more because of my parents' favoritism towards him. And it was me, I guess, lashing out, as I talked in the beginning. It was me lashing out. But now that we're older, we do get along. And it's funny how, even though we're 3 in the family, like we're 3 siblings, we are all different. Like, my brother, he's really smart, a loner, but at the same time, he's selfish. And I am more of a social butterfly. And I know that I'm repeating myself. And then my younger brother, him and I, we get along perfect. When my mom told me that she was pregnant again, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my god, yes, another, like, this time I'm gonna have my little sister. Like, yes, this is my time to shine. Psych, it was a boy again. And I'm like, oh, perfect, 2 boys in the house, woohoo. And with him, it was totally different. I guess because my brother was 2 at the time, the new baby it got the attention, but it was more the middle who got all of it, honestly. So my little brother and I think we get along because we see how my parents treat my middle brother. Like, he's the favorite. He can't do anything wrong, even in classwork, like schoolwork. My parents, with me in my schoolwork, they were really strict. They were always like, Gloriann, you have to do this. Gloriann, you have to do that. You have to have good grades to get into a good school. With my middle brother, they're not really into it. When I mean into it, they're not really pressuring my brother to do good, because again, he's really smart. And even though I remember that one year my brother just completely, his grades were just bad, completely bad. And my father, I remember my father, if I took like a bad grade to the house, either an F or a D in an exam, he will flip out. With my brother, he doesn't do that. He's just, oh, do better next time. But then with my younger brother, he will have a flip if my younger brother like doesn't have good grades. And it's hilarious because my little brother and I, we always talked about this, and he's like, why is that always pressuring us to do better? But with the middle brother, he's not really doing anything about it. He's just letting things the way they are. Anyway, I can say that having siblings, for me, it has been a real experience, because I see my friends with their siblings. I know that I can't compare, but I see that a lot of them do get along perfectly, but they're the same age. My brothers and I, we have a really long age difference. You know, I get out with the middle brother, I'm 11 years older than him, and with the youngest, I'm 13 years older than him. So it's hard sometimes, because even though I'm always in the house, well, not always in the house because I work, but even though we shared experience together, we three are totally different, and our parents treat us totally different as well. Because again, when my brother does something, like now he's older, he's more capable of doing things. If let's see, he ate something. I know he's a guy, and I know that guys can be really messy sometimes. When he eats something, or like he made breakfast, or he cooked something for himself, he doesn't clean the dishes, and my dad gets pissed off at me if I don't clean the dishes when I make a mess. But with my brother, he goes and cleans the dishes for him, and it's just like, okay, you're fighting with me because I made a mess. I understand that I'm older, and that I'm and then I need to take some responsibility in things. I mean, I do have responsibilities, but he should be taking responsibilities as well. Don't nurture him, don't babysit him that much. With my younger brother, it's the exact same thing. Like, if he makes a mess, my mom or my dad is like, hey, clean your mess. I'm not gonna clean for you. So my parents, even though they, I guess subconsciously, they don't notice that they babysit a lot of my middle brother. And that's how my young brother and I, we know that he's the favorite, because it's just too noticeable. And it's funny because my cousin, when my middle brother starts getting older, he knew like what my grandma and my mom is like. He just knew. He's like, this kid's good, it's the favorite. Like, they, everything that my brother did and does is like the greatest thing ever. And it's funny because even though he's the middle child, they treat him like they treat him like it was the oldest, like, and it's crazy sometimes, to be honest. I know that a lot of people may have the same situation as me, because for whatever reason, either their parents got remarried, or they decided to have more kids. Like in my case, my parents just decided to have more kids because I guess I was getting older. We're like, oh, we're getting baby fever. Anyway, the thing is that I know that a lot of people can understand me and the fact that I guess all parents have a favorite, even though they deny it. I know that they have a favorite. And in my case, it's my little brother who's the favorite in the family. When we're in my grandparents' house, I'm the favorite. I'm my grandfather's favorite, and then my grandma, my brother, that's her favorite. But when my cousin comes into town, it's my cousin that is the favorite of both of my grandparents. So it's a whole thing, to be honest. It's hilarious because we all get along, although my cousin and my middle brother, they don't really get along. And I think it's more because like of the favoritism that my grandma puts sometimes on my brother. But yeah, no, my cousin thinks the exact same way, that they babysat him too much. Like they babysat my middle brother too much. And anyway, so the point is, now that I'm getting older, I do try to get along and try to take out my brothers more often. Now that I work, I have more responsibilities. I have a little bit more independent. I'm a little bit more independent in some things. I always take my brother out to eat, or take my younger brother to like play video games or buy video games. I try to create a bond with them, because even though we have a gap in our age, a really big difference in our age, I do want them to think that I'm I want to be a good sister, and I want them to be open about everything with me, because I know that sometimes my parents can be really overwhelming. And with my middle brother, he's really, again, he's a loner. He doesn't really talk that much, but at the same time, he's selfish when he does talk or does something. But my younger brother, him and I can say that I'm his best friend, even though we're 13 years apart. He calls me, he texts me every time we talk. It's like, oh, Gloriann this, Gloriann that, oh, Gloriann, like our game. He's always there. Just like if I call him, he tries to help me. I know that I'm the oldest and I'm supposed to be their mentor, but both of my brothers have shown me a lot of things. And I can say that it was really hard for me, being an only child, to having two brothers, because my whole life changed. I don't regret it. I do wanted a sister though, but my parents didn't want another kid. But things happen for a reason, and I love my brothers. Even though we fight, we hurt each other, we say really annoying stuff, I know that they're always going to be there for me. Up next, I'll be talking about taking a road trip with your family.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Finally, to end today's podcast, I'll be talking about taking a road trip with your family. I know that being on a road trip sounds exciting and fun, a little vacation for the whole family, but this can be stressful at times. deciding where to go, booking the hotel, driving 3 to more hours in the car, everybody uncomfortable in the car, buying snacks, whatever it is stressful. If you're a parent and you have little kids, you try getting snacks and putting on a movie so they're entertained. If you have teenagers, the same thing. Buy them snacks and, give them screen time, music for them, however you want to do it and however it's going to be easier for you to make those hours shorter, not longer, not feel like you're driving to hell. Anyways, many families take road trip to bond and get along better. It makes them connect and experience a wonderful time together. Vacations are an escape of our daily routines, and it can be fun not thinking about work or your problems at your house, with your other family members. It's just a whole weekend of you and your family. And hey, if you want to take a road trip alone, then it's self-care time. Taking a road trip with the family can be a great experience because you get to make memories, and it's something that your children in the future will appreciate and will say, hey mom, or hey dad, do you remember when we went to the Grand Canyon, or when we went to Vegas, or when we went to Disney or Universal? Whatever it is, it is always a good memory. You need to prepare yourself for a road trip. You have to check your car, take him to the dealership or the mechanic so they can check everything and that everything's okay. So you obviously don't get stuck in the middle of the road with the family, because that's not going to be fun. Everybody's going to be whining. I can see that happening in my family. And obviously make a list of everything you need to so you don't forget. If you decide to go either to Busch Gardens or Disney or Universal or Six Flags, somewhere close, or visit a family member, you guys live in New York and they live in Boston, you take that trip with your kids. Or you're in Florida and you live in Miami and then you want to go to Orlando or go to Alabama or Texas to see the family, or go to Mardi Gras. There's different things that you can do to take a road trip. And at least here in the States, you can take different road trips and it's going to be a different experience always. You just need to decide what kind of road trip you want to have, or not what kind of road trip, but where are you going in your road trip. I can say that at least when my dad was here in Puerto Rico, when my dad was here in Florida and I lived in Puerto Rico, every time I came here in the summer, it was always going to Universal, to the parks. My dad really doesn't like Disney. He says that it's just for little kids. I like Disney. I've been there maybe only 2 times, and I really can say that I haven't had the whole Disney experience. Anyway, the point is that every time we went to Universal or to the parks, we always drove up there. And I can say that one time it was my dad and I alone with his cousin, and we had a blast. The trip, I think it was because I was little. Well, not little, when I was younger. I think I fell asleep, so for me the ride wasn't that long or anything. My dad tells me that it's an easy ride because now that I'm older, I've made the trip to Orlando, to Tampa specifically, and now that I'm older, I made the trip to Tampa. We went to one of the parks, and let me tell you, 4 hours driving, it is a lot, because at one point you just get bored. There's nothing in the road, so it's difficult. And to basically, if you're doing this trip alone, you need to either put music on or a podcast, because it could be really boring. And if you're at night, it's dangerous. Like, you just have to either call somebody, podcast, something, because it is dangerous. And then with your friends, taking a road trip with your family. We took a road trip and my dad was the one driving. I was in front, and then my two brothers were in the back. And for them, it was comfortable because, you know, it was they had space. They were good. They fell asleep. They woke up every time we did a pit stop. Because at least my dad, he tries to do a pit stop when we're half of the trip, you know, to move his feet, stretch, go to the bathroom, eat something if we're hungry, and if anything, we just wait until we get to where we're supposed to go, because we do carry a lot of snacks. Anyways, a road trip in Puerto Rico is totally different. I remember, first of all, Puerto Rico is a small island, so it really doesn't take you 3-4 hours to go to your destiny. The longest I can say is 2.5 hours, and it's from the north side to the west side. That's it. Anyways, to the point, I remember that when I was little, my grandfather, we had a lot of road trips with him. We always went to either hotels, you know, stay the summer, like my cousin, my uncles, you know, we were always together. I mean, not always together, but we always spend time together. Like, maybe every summer when my older cousin came to town, it was like, okay, so we're going to this hotel, like, get ready, blah, blah. And even though it wasn't like a whole 3-hour, 4-hour trip, it was super exciting. I have like a really big memory of those vacations, but there's photos, and I always saw I was with my grandparents, and my mom, she was there, and then my dad, he arrived later. So I can really say that I really didn't have like a vacation with my mom and my dad. It was just either with my grandparents, with all the family, but never like alone with them. And I can say that traveling with my dad, or like road tripping with my dad, he's a whole different person. Driving, he just, you know, he's so calm, he's so patient, and he's like driving like the world could end, and he's just calm. Obviously, when he gets tired, now that I'm older, I'm the one who drives. When we go to the parks, it's for 3 hours, and then when we do the when we are in the half of the road, then we change, or ask him like, hey, are you still tired, or like, do you want me to drive now? And he's like, either yeah, no worries, you drive, or no, I'm good. Anyways, I do wanna right now, like, my dad and I, we were trying to plan a road trip with my brothers, like me, my dad, and try to visit like at least until like Texas or North Carolina. Try to do that and then come back, you know, see a little different, and see family members that we know that are in Texas, in Alabama, and up North Florida. You know, try to see the difference between living in South Florida and going up north. I remember that when I was in 6th grade, one of my friends from school, she did a road trip around the states. Like, her and her family visited every like important thing in each state. Like, in Florida, they visited the parks. In Texas, they went to Austin, Texas. They went to, just Vegas. They went to Las Vegas, Nevada. They went to Las Vegas. It's different little things. And I remember they rented an RV and they drove for a month all over the states, just watching every state. And and visiting every state. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they even missed some states because it was just a lot what they wanted to do. And if you're gonna do a road trip like that, like a 20-hour trip, obviously you can't have a small car or an SUV. You need something that everybody will be comfortable in, like the RV. Somebody falls asleep or somebody's just like needs to stretch. They just get up in the RV, stretch, and then sit back down. Because the fact of being in a car all the time, like for 10 hours, it is exhausting. And let's just say sometimes, just imagine you having 2 little kids, like the car seats, and then you have a Honda Accord and then 2 car seats, and then somebody has to be in the middle of them. I'm telling you, it is uncomfortable. Because I remember that when my brothers were little, there were 2 car seats in the car, and when I had to sit in the middle, it was uncomfortable. It was even like a trip to the grocery store, like my parents, we all had to go, and I had to sit in the middle. It is uncomfortable. It could be a 5-minute ride. It was just uncomfortable. I don't want to think about a 5-hour drive or a 3-hour drive being in the middle between 2 car seats. It is uncomfortable, and I just do not recommend it at all. People that have little kids and have a teenager, or have, they're gonna go invite their grandparents, whatever it is, rent an RV. Because it's crazy. As I said, vacation is a time to relax, to spend time with your family or with your partner. It all depends. Of course, if you're you're gonna do a road trip or take a flight or whatever it is, you need to save up money, and you need to be, if you're driving, you need to be prepared for everything that would happen in the road. Like if your tire exploded, or the check engine comes on, or your transmission starts to fail. Those are the things that you need to take care of before driving long hours, because again, you don't want to be stuck in the middle of the road alone in the dark, and even like your whole family just, "Dad, when are we leaving again? Mom, why is this taking so long?" It's gonna ruin your whole vacation and your mood as well, and we don't want that. We just don't want that. Of course, in the future, it will be a great joke, and you're gonna be laughing about it. Like, oh, remember when we got stuck in the middle of the road at 2 a.m. in the morning? Yeah, everybody's gonna remember. They're either gonna laugh or they're gonna look at you like, yeah, that was the last trip we took together. You need, for vacations or for a road trip, you just have to have a lot of patience, save up money, bring lots of snacks, and everybody needs to be well rested. And hey, you always have, you can always sleep in the car, but it's obviously not the same as your bed. But you just have to be prepared. Well, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I know, again, as I said, I was a little bit blah. And again, it's because I'm not feeling well. But for next episode, I'll try to be more energetic. And stay safe, okay, guys? Thank you for listening to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice comment and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.